this looks backwards because of the way that the back camera works, or the front back camera works on this phone. So apologies for that. Right, this is an S for south, and this is N for north, although it doesn't quite look like it here. Anyway, you get my idea. This is the equator of my pumpkin globe. I'm trying to better understand how in the electromagnetic world our world really works. I'm obviously not in favor of the 23-degree tilt ball with little people standing on the side and all the way down the side of a ball, that they're standing somehow perpendicular to this. As I say to people in the street, the fruit is never grown on the outside of the skin. The fruit must be contained. All of the fruit of this pumpkin is inside of the skin. And we are the fruit of the earth, one way or another. And we are the fruit within the earth. So this is our natural world. And you can see even the lines of longitude running down the side of the skin, that's great. That's how the outside of the world would look. Here, this is this longitude here is my Greenwich Mean Time, or mean meridian, 0, and it's 360 degrees all the way around, tilted this way apparently, but this part gets extremely hot because of other factors, probably gravity as well. Okay, so I just noticed I've been playing in the sand. My fingernails aren't that clean. Forgive me for that. So I think what we'll do now is we'll cut this beauty open, as organic as she comes, actually. So it will become food for the family after this demonstration is done. I should add that I've marked these north and south because I want to try and use, the terminology and the understanding of the way that our world works based on, a lot of our modern our navigation and all these sorts of things, the setup of the globe, how they took reality and formed it like this. But naturally speaking, this is the top. This north is the part of the plant, the fruit, the vegetable that was connected to the stem and to the root. So this would be, logically speaking, this would be the north. Whether north and south is opposite on our earth, and the south is the north and the north is the south is another conversation. But in this case, this is the butt end of the veg, and these are the lines. As you can see, these lines, there are the lines carrying charge from the north to the south. It works the same, I think, with every fruit. This could be a tomato or an orange. Energy in here, and just like an electromagnetic torus, the energy is spilling around the outside and then going, and I'm talking really generally here. I'm not saying it's only happening on the outside, but to give the external apple-shaped torus its due, then the energy is spilling around the outside and then reciprocating through into a hyperboloid, like the neck of the hourglass, and rising back up to the top and then spreading itself out again. Just, the example of the orange pith, I think, is a great one as an analogy for our world, because that pith would be like the crystalline structure that we think is the roof of this place. It's oblate, peroid, and slightly chubbier down below, apparently. Unless you're talking to another glober who will say, no, it's a perfect sphere, and the geometry and the maths and the 8 inches per mile squared, which, of course, I disagree with the 8 inches per mile squared, because it doesn't matter where you live. If you live on a globe, then not everywhere is down from you. You know, this idea that I'm standing here and then everything is down from me means that the person standing here has a very different experience, and that they've actually got an uphill here and a downhill here. That's why relativity is, as I understand it, the bit that has everybody standing on the top of the ball, is also the pseudoscience, of course, and has to be accepted if one is to believe that we live on the globe, but we don't know that we're underneath it or on the side of it, and that plants don't know that either. They just grow straight off perpendicular. No matter where the sun might be, it's just going to be a perpendicular experience everywhere. And that's why they never actually show us anything standing underneath, upside down, relative to someone up here, because everybody on the globe is on top. Poppycock. I haven't done any activism the last few weeks. You might have heard me say I'd hurt my shoulder. It's a lot better now. Not strong, but I can use it. I can lift it up to the steering wheel. That's another story. Anyway, I will hope to be going live again very soon. In the streets, I mean. So, how do we cut this to try and represent how a world, an electromagnetic world inside, rather than on the outside of the oblate spheroid, how it might look? And I have favored this cut before, and I still think there's merit in that cut, as a way of opening the fruit to see what we look like inside the macrocosm. But you've probably heard me say this before, or may not have, so here we go. I go for the north-south cut these days, and that is, well, I'll show you. Try and stay on this line. Sorry, Bill. I'm looking after a very nervous dog. Let me tell you, this dog was rescued in Turkey, from Turkey, the country, and it is a real reminder. She's a real reminder of how, when you injure a puppy or a dog, the trauma, wow, it lasts a long time and may never leave them. And that's what happens with mankind, is that we are traumatized from as young as possible, because that trauma never leaves, and it's very easy to initiate a trauma response. This dog, I just have to clap my hands and the dog cowers. The dog won't come into the lounge when the fire's burning and crackling, because it's just too much of a reminder of something else that happened to her before. Lovely dog. She's actually nipped Zizi and bit Luke in the face. So, but this is what wounded dogs do. So I've made a few of these videos, well, at least one of these videos, some months ago. It had for my channel size, it had a decent number of views, and some good comments, or some comments, I suppose, that were affirmative. However, it doesn't really seem to kind of affect any change in thinking. Okay, so what does it matter what the exact model is and the shape and so on? Well, I guess if we're trying to help others to understand the model and ourselves to understand our world, which is what we've always been seeking, then to be able to define a model based on natural experience, observation, has a huge amount of merit. And just like I think that this, the Robotham sun is 3,000 miles away and 50 miles wide, and that we know is not true. Not in our experience, anyway. The sun is in the clouds individually, uniquely for each of us. So how the sun works and so on is not as easy to explain as this. It's another ball, or a light source, an individual light source at 3,000 miles elevation. Obviously that if all you're doing is using a piece of paper to say, well, the trigonometry says that for us to be able to see it when we're in this part of the world and that part of the world, then it has to be that high. But that doesn't fit with it seen in the clouds, below the pilots, in planes and so on. Anyway, so I feel there's merit in continuing this conversation, and hopefully in time, I can debate this, or at least kind of have people consider this in their smorgasbord of possibilities, because we don't know for sure. Anyone claiming to know for sure is for sure misguided. So let's open this up. I haven't opened this up before, so let's see what we see. So this is still the north. This is the part that was connected to the tree, or the vine. And this is the south. It smells good. And I'll tell you what, see these seeds? There's probably 100 of them. And with these 100 seeds, in a few years' time, you could have so many thousands of this fruit, this vegetable, that villages upon villages would not go hungry in the wintertime, or when these came to fruit. But we don't work like that anymore. We don't think like that anymore. Anyway, so what do we see here? Is this familiar? I mean, for me, this is the Taurus. The infinity. I would say more accurately, the infinity. It's the double helix of the DNA. So microcosm and macrocosm, right? But this is where, and I'm going to have to hold this up in this angle for now, just because I can't move the camera too easily and show you what I want to show you. But this is where I think that we live. You see, here on this membrane between the north and the south. So this would be, I'm just going to use this side for now and say this could be Europe and Canada and Africa, South America, I suppose, and China down here, or something like that. There's an alternative view that I have, which is that we actually already move between two sections, and that the China, you got the west and the east, and that we somehow move between these two. That's another option, but it's compelling when you look at these old maps. So if we just take this one half and say this is our known world, yeah, and obviously it would be flat like this, because we live on a flat body of water, surrounded by that. And the seeds, also another word similar to seeds, is the sea. And they say that all life comes from the sea in the mainstream model. And these seeds, or this sea, is where new life would come from. In the version where it's just this half that we're in, then the center of the fruit would be here. This would be the center. This would be Africa. This would be the equator. Mount Meru down near Kilimanjaro would be here, and everything sprays off it from this side. So this is Siberia, and Korea and whatnot, and China, Malaysia, and then Australia would be down here somewhere, with New Zealand right in the ice ring. This is your ice ring. This is what we believe to be the frozen no-can-go-to land. And then this would be Africa, and this here would be South America, Peru, touching to the Falkland Islands. They call it Monroe Shelf or something, that all that would be down there. I quite like this. It might even be my preference when it comes to whether it's one side or two, but be that as it may, when people are, this is one of the most important elements of this, is that when people are heading for the North Pole to find their way out, it's like we're trying to get out of the plant itself, back up into the stem of the plant. Laudable, and that may be exactly what we're meant to do. But the heart and earth and love, the connection to love, and at the center of everything is this love-heart connection. And of course, at the center of your chest is your heart. It's not here at your head, and it's not down there at your tail. It's right here. So that's why I figure, that if we're meant to be going towards the heart, then it may be that we're meant to be going towards Meru here, towards the center, heading towards there. Why? Why would we head towards the center? I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just like an ego mission to go, oh, well, we've found something that or we've energetically encountered something that we were supposed to encounter on this journey here. Maybe. I'm not sure, but it does feel to me like if this vegetable configuration is like our Earth, then everybody heading towards the North Pole is essentially people trying to get out of the fruit, which I don't know that we're meant to do that in this physical incarnation. This being the North Pole, and this being the place where the pulsing energy arrives from the plant itself, is a possible explanation for the aurora borealis. That as energy and life is pulsing in, then it shows up in our atmosphere at certain times of the year when the conditions are right. And it could be, as I said, what's happening is that energy is pulsing and arcing around the outside, creating electrical activity as it does that, and then it arrives here at the butt end and then kind of makes its way back into the fruit. So the aurora australis is feasible in this model as well, because I feel like energy does return in at the butt of the fruit, and the apple is a great example of that. And same with the orange. They have this energetic entry point or exit point, but we'll leave it at that for now. So I do wonder whether this here isn't the heart that we're all seeking, and that just another clever ploy to get all the brightest minds trying to find their way out through the stem of the plant, which I think is a non-starter, trying to get up the plant. I don't know. We could debate that. I mean, I can't be certain about that. I'm sure there's other really good views and opinions on that. But as I say, I think that these hard structures here, these filaments, are what we see as continents. And the seeds are the seas of life. So just to finish off here with my owl eyes, and then they love that symbolism in the secret crew. They love this dual symbolism and the eyes, the owl. So I just wanted to kind of hypothesize it a little further and more deeply into the kind of the two sides of the fruit option, because if they are joined, if it is something like this, and we actually were able to travel, I don't know that actually makes enough sense. I mean, I'll throw it in there just because I've got to keep an open mind. I mean, it's a fascinating one, and there's this uncomfortable kind of consideration for me, which is that if this is the north here in the center, this here is the north of the fruit or the earth, and this is the south here, then is this the south as well? Is the whole outer ring south? Is it always south? Or is it actually true west and east? Is it possible that this is, I'll say west and this is east, or east and west? And that there's just some competing and challenging self kind of considerations to be made on that. Is that are we looking here at a north south and then east and west as we would have it, and that you're not always heading south, that when you're heading out, you're actually heading in a northeast heading or a northwest heading, and then in that situation, then this would be where, like, Alaska is, and then when you come across this way here, you're traveling into the Russian Federation. And I guess truthfully, I do find the variations in the races and then the sub races of the human story, just assuming for simplicity that there's just one race called mankind here, but that race has different fruits, that we are actually from different parts of the fruit, such that we would look as different as we do. And this model where there's a very distinct Asian flavor and then a more Caucasian or African flavor. As I said before, I think that the 5 rings of the Olympics might also be a truth drop, where it's actually there's 5 of these that have come together, 5 fruits have merged over time to bring these different people here, or they've been seeded in from different fruits, who knows. But just wanted to throw that back out there, and hope you are all well, and I don't know about you, but for me, these are not the easiest of times, There's we try and make light of it, but actually what's happened in the world what's happened to our world is nothing short of bonkers, really. And we all know that there's more coming, I think, and that when I see America now has gotten rid of the requirement to take the V to arrive, but you do have to have a V in the last year. Otherwise, you can't arrive. You can't land there. And there's so much more. I was in a supermarket today, getting some bits and pieces, and called Asda, the supermarket, and they are owned by Walmart, actually. Not that has a huge bearing on it, but obviously that's a giant of the system. And they have this massive, large screen TV filming people as they're walking out of the shop. But as people get within a certain range, it puts like a green box over your face like this, and then it tracks that as it gets a clear kind of thing, it's tracking you, and that's in the supermarket, man. I just felt like China. I felt like I was in China. Not that I've been there, but it's my imagining of being in a Chinese shop is that you're being super, super closely analyzed. Anyway, the point is really that I think we have seen so much, and we know much has changed. And I don't know about you, but for me, it's really difficult, like making small talk with people in the I'd hate to be someone who still has a 9-to-5 office job, and I had to go there. I mean, I would be obviously the office clown, because I would have told everybody about flat Earth by now. Or even if you tell a few people, quietly in a pub, it won't take long before they're like, "Oi, have you heard what he's saying? Fucking thinks the Earth is flat. Can you believe it? He says there's curvature, but we can't measure it. And, well, what does it matter if we can't measure it? It's just the Earth is so big, so obviously we can't measure it. I've seen it from a plane anyway." He says he knows pilots who say that there's no curvature accounted for. Yeah, but it's ridiculous. I mean, what does he think? JFK wasn't assassinated. 9/11 didn't really happen. What, them buildings didn't come down, like? People died. People died in the last 3 years. And he's saying we shouldn't take one of these in the arm. Something wrong with him. I can see the moon up there. Almost full. And it's a little crazy for me at the moment. I'm sure for you guys. I guess I'm just trying to say, it's a bit clumsily, but I'm just trying to say that this is really difficult. It's really hard, because friends and family are no longer close. I feel like a stranger to most people, and the just going around and being pleasant to shopkeepers and to what have you, when you're holding on to this incredible truth, or this incredible sense that this whole game, it is a game, is rigged, and is so at odds with natural order, natural law. But you're almost you're powerless to change it out there. And in a way, sometimes I'm like, why am I doing the street activism? Because who am I helping? Who am I doing it for? What am I doing it for? When the hard truth is that the change that you can affect is change in your life. Wow, this thing is just packed with seeds, packed with life, packed with potential for life, and our young children are packed with potential for young life, for life. We were down where we're staying at the moment. We're not far from the beach, and It wasn't sunny today, but there was a few patches of sunshine, and we thought we would stray down there. A place called Western Supermare. And there were these children playing, 8 children, maybe 9, 10. 3 or 4 mothers had brought their children to the beach together, and they were the only people on the beach that we were on, other than ourselves, for most of the time. And it's going to sound a little judgmental, but I felt like, wow. See, these mothers are doing the best that they can in the situation that they're in, and so on, but they are not at all conscious of the precious, God essence that they are, and that what we are, and that their children are. And so they are, completely feeding them on all the system crap. When I see overweight children, I am sometimes of the mind that it's funny how there's certain kinds of abuse that are acceptable in our world, but others, we have a real problem with. And, when you set a child up with an awful diet, no, but they've got medical problems that they've been diagnosed. Well, that may have stemmed from the stuff that's gone into their system, right? But at least you're saving the planet. Worried about oil spills, and what was that guy in Froome bleating on about? Myanmar, it's Myanmar! Deforestation! Look at the children. Look at how the internal biome is being deforested. And they are within years of finishing school, even before, probably on a regimen of meds. And this one little girl ran past us. She couldn't have been 10 years old, maybe 10 years old, maybe a little less, and she had on like a bikini and a very big wobbly tummy. And I think that when she ran past us, she actually was self-conscious of her tummy. She was, because when she was running, it was kind of like, doing that thing that big tummies do when you run. And it was like, oh man, I know that child is going to have trauma and a lifetime possibly of medical requirements, and probably just like the mums, probably also going to be like super unhealthy. I don't want to be in judgment of that, and this came across sounding like a judgment. It's not. I don't know. I feel judgment so much as I feel sad for that. I feel like that's where we're at, and that's where a lot of people are at. So how do you give these people any truth that liberates them? It's like this dog, this dog. As much as we're trying to love on this dog, actually, and be like really gentle with it, and the dog's really warmed to us over the last few days, but it's like, is there ever going to come a time when that dog is not frightened of a hand clap? Same as with these mothers and parents and people, in society. Is there ever going to come a time when the government can't clap its hands and they go, how many boosters do I need? Just thinking whether I had said stuff that was going to trigger. There's a funny thing, and so we're in a new place, as I said, and we were coming off the beach. We needed some things from the supermarket, and I put that into. I said to I typed in supermarket into the Waze app, and It offered me some supermarkets close by, but on the same page, it offered me a supermarket in the Netherlands. My family got a good laugh out of me saying, this is how smart AI really is, Why would I want a supermarket in the Netherlands? I have to cross the entire of England, not very big, go on a channel tunnel under the channel, and cross through France, Belgium, and go to the Netherlands so I could go to a supermarket, 700 miles away or something. 700 kilometers, not that far. And that's not very smart. Let me tell you, AI is another scam. It's just Al Gore's rhythm, and because they can listen to conversations, because they can read text, they can work shit out, but it's not that smart. So that was the options. There's a couple of few miles away, and then there's one in the Netherlands. Would you like to go there? Why didn't you just send me to Portugal or Spain? Coronation. That's the word. Sorry, coronation. But it does make you think, doesn't it? Coronation. I was mentioning to Andrea there might be some large protests expected in London on the weekend because of the coronation. And she said, yeah, actually I heard that in Extinction Rebellion are running cover for the Queen to come, because I don't know why actually. We just surmised that it's because they see that this dude, Charles, is all about the green agenda. And let me tell you, the green agenda is, of course, everything like the space program is a hoax, but the green agenda is just another way of humans hating, or mankind hating on God, hating on itself. Because, we are the problem in the green agenda, and we must be taxed and penalized and minimized and 15-minute cityized. I swear they let migrants, or they create the movement of migrants partly because they want to limit your movement. Because the more people complain about migrants, the more they justify limiting our movement. Just like every other event seems to have the same end result, that there's more restriction on us. And whilst I used to think that Charlie was pretty fine with all his duchy produce, and that's clean and organic and that kind of thing, I think that's just for those who can afford it. The rest have to be minimized, limited, distributed. I don't want to say distilled. Distributed. Set about. And the best way to do it, like we saw in 2020, is to get the neighbor to insist that you. And funny enough, because we've stayed in a lot of different houses over the last few months in different parts of the country, we've got to see how the recycling happens differently in different places. But one thing that has been universal is that the homeowners are ever more squirrel-like in their packing of, this little bit of plastic goes in that one, that harder plastic goes in that one, then the tins over there, and sometimes the glass and the tins can go together, but sometimes they must be separate in some places. And then, of course, the wet food has to go separately from the general refuse, which has to be trimmed down. The bins are smaller, and they only, in a lot of places, they'll only come once every 3 weeks to collect this stuff. Some stuff they'll come every week for, but the general waste, the biggest waste of your house, general waste stuff, has only comes once every 3 weeks to try and squeeze you a little tighter, so you don't put plastics in the general waste that could be recycled and so on. And whilst I care about the world very much, and I do think that we should be mindful and seek to minimize wastage, I do think that, again, it's more like affecting us and minimizing us and turning us into these little squirrels who spend ages cleaning out tins. We haven't really participated too much in that. I mean, we do obviously recycle, we do separate some bits and pieces, but I've been to countries where there's none of that, and it's all going into one bin. And anyway, I don't know where it all ends, but funnily enough, I overheard the neighbors on our way out earlier. I heard the neighbors talking to themselves about how there was a new subdivision of the waste coming into force in this local area soon, where there would be another small bin. A few houses ago, over the Christmas period, the waste collection company put like what looked like a penalty notice red tag on the bins because I hadn't got the right stuff in the bins, and so they wouldn't collect it. I ended up taking it out of those bins because the people were coming back. I ended up taking it out of those bins and finding a large bin somewhere else, one of those kind of more industrial sized bins, so that they didn't arrive back to bags of uncollected refuse. But this is just becoming more and more, so the bin man, just like the veg guy at the supermarket, became the determinator as to whether or not you could shop in 2021 and so on. Now the bin man is the guy who decides whether or not you have an infestation of rats because you haven't followed protocol or policy, and creating really just well-behaved citizens. And that's why it's hard, because I know that we are not citizens. We are something much greater. Yeah, we live in a community, and within a community there are rules, there are things, norms that people should want to adhere to. But when those norms are based in deception and a desire to minimize, control, subjugate, then it's hard to kind of want to go along with them, So I get why you might want to take the PET plastic and turn that back into reusable products. Or tin, I get that. But rather than them taking that stuff and separating it into tins, put a big magnet over it, pull all the tins out, and blow the plastic away and burn it. A lot of stuff just goes into a fire and gets burned for energy. They actually separate it now into tins and this and that, and then they'll sell it. So they're making profit on your labor. You were part of the supply chain that created that opportunity for them to make that money on selling tins to India or whatever. So it's just big business. I remember when Al Gore lost his bid at the presidency and then came out with the inconvenient truth, and I did feel like at the time, even though I was still in the system, I did feel like at the time that these carbon credits and carbon taxes and all this shit was going to cost us a lot of money, and that's what it does. It costs us a lot of money, and we are minimized. The house we're in at the moment, the ladies turned off the central heating before we got here, because she's trying to keep her bills down, I guess. And to be fair, she's on her own here and doesn't have much reason to heat the house. But we've found it rather cold, and people have been freezing because they are being. Anyway, I'm just rambling a little bit, and if you listen this long, thanks. Appreciate the support. Thanks to Call for Zero, actually, for sending us a few bucks. Appreciate that, mate. And yeah, I just feel a little bit like out of sorts, because it's like, what the fuck are we doing this for? And where is it leading? I guess if I was on the land now, putting seeds in the ground, then and raising my little boy with woodwork around him and minor farming type activities going on around him, that would be like, okay, I've found my way out of the system. It's not meant to be just yet, but I guess for most people who follow this channel, you're in a similar predicament. Not many have found their way out. Similar predicament, and juggling pseudo reality with, well, there's something incredible going on here, and we're not really. I don't want to say we're not making progress. Some people have made great progress. I know that I've had awesome still time at various points in this journey, where I know that I'm centered and balanced, and as much as I can be in a sort of state of harmony with the world, or with my world. So I know that's attainable. So even if you were living in a small one-bedroom apartment in a city situation, I think that's attainable, even though it may not be like 5 acres and fields of things growing and bleating. I think there is that inner journey attainment, and so we're still doing the labyrinth. It's getting dark. That's the moon I said earlier. We still do the labyrinth. I think this week we may only do it on Friday. I know I shouldn't have left this right to the end of this video. I'll do another video on that. But we're doing the labyrinth to help people and ourselves walk through some of this. I became obliquely aware over the last couple of days that there are little communities in the flat Earth space, in this truth space that have formed, and probably most famously the Bear Brigade. I don't mean naked. I mean grizzly bear type. I won't make references. There's other references to bears in my life that I'm sure you've heard of yourself. Anyway, in the bear community, which is owned and controlled by Owen Benjamin, there is schism and division and disappointment, the other one was to do with more mud flood or meltology community. And it just seems like what we did in uncovering this truth about the possible great deceptions. It doesn't, organizing ourselves in the way that we used to, and these sorts of things. It just smacks of we're just recreating the schoolyard, but for children that are in the flat Earth rather than the globe. I mean, it's laudable. Don't get me wrong. I'm not being, I think it's laudable, and good things have come from these gatherings. But the truth is, we are quite different people, all of us, and just because we know that the Earth is flat does not mean that we should be sharing a flat. Or getting bare together. Anyway. Getting quite dark. I was surprised about that, That's what happens this time of day. I might be seeing Martin Luther tomorrow. So if I do, I'll try and catch him on video. Well, maybe not, but we'll see. And my mate Sven P is doing he and other people, and maybe it's Tony Whitcomb, others, I don't know, in Bournemouth, they're doing a vigil for those affected by the last 3 years of tyranny. That's on the 27th of May in Bournemouth, starting at 2 p.m. Sven P, you can hit him up for specifics on that, or I've got a flyer if you want to email me. Yeah, I think that's it. Sorry about the sound of my distiller running in the background. If you're not distilling your water, go and check out my video from a month ago on the Mega Home distiller. Anything else? Yeah, I'm grateful to those who support me by watching these videos, and if you share them, even more so. But yeah, I think what the lessons of these two situations that I recently became aware of, well, one in Betaria and the other one in Smelt fellow. I hadn't heard of him before, but there was something going on with him in Stellium 7, and I'm friends with Stellium, so I did look into it. But is that we don't really want to give away sovereignty or take sovereignty, begin to assume sovereignty from where it was taken from us by the system, and then give it to an Owen Benjamin. It's not in Benjamin's best interest to become that either, because once you're in that position, then there's that absolute power corrupting absolutely, and no matter from whence you come, there's going to be this this thing of do as I do, and I say what you can do kind of thing, and I don't really think that that's viable. Maybe it does work, but I don't think so. I think we should be masters of our own. I talked with Alex and Michael about my ideal of a community where it was shaped like a flower, with the center of the flower being the communal space, and then each petal, maybe it's 5, maybe it's 12 petals, arrayed around it, and each petal was one man's land, I shouldn't say person. One man's land, and he did what he wanted to do with his land. In the flower there would be obviously a certain understanding about how we conduct ourselves. You know, but just, and of course, that's maybe a bit pie in the sky, because obviously, how do we at this point in time have that petal? Each of us have the money for that petal, and and in truth, like even if you could buy yourself a whole flower or a petal, have you done the work that you're meant to do on yourself? Because I think it's harder for the rich man to get the camel through the eye of a needle and all that. And that applies to us, even though we know what we know. Is that if you, it doesn't necessarily mean monetarily, but if you've never had to do the hard yards, be exposed to your weakest, darkest side. And I think we see a bit of that coming out at the moment. But that darkest side, and then get the opportunity to reflect and review and to recover. If you haven't had that opportunity, then you're still kind of meandering through this miasma with the same veil that you were carrying as a glober. Anyway, it's really getting dark here now, so I'll say goodbye for now.